So we're going to go to Q&A session now. And let me see.
Oh, it's a 1 hour long presentation, right? So I beat it. For the first time, I've done a presentation within time. Wow, that's a new thing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And you know what? I mean, this is kind of, it's kind of our tradition, right? We try and like to keep things mellow, but we set 1 hour for the presentation and 1 hour for the Q&A. And what we found is some folks run under, other folks run over. We actually had Bob Greenyer. He did 2 hours and he's like, I gotta come back. I gotta come back and do more. I'm like, okay, but and then other folks do half an hour and that's their entire thing. So we try and keep it flexible that way.
Okay. Some people have a lot to talk about and some people say it briefly. Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of, it comes and goes, I guess, depending on the guest. But this is just me, from my perspective. I look at everything that we do as we're creating kind of an archive, right? Not just to communicate to people today, but a record for people who are designing this stuff in the future. And so I'm always really excited just to capture whatever we can, whatever people are willing to share and get it out there,
Yep.
So, well, yeah, so let's go to Q&A. And so you guys can raise your hands using Option Y on Mac or Alt Y on Windows. And I will do my very best to keep up with you. Let me bring the chat window over here. Okay. And again, so Bill Alec, sir, go for it.
Okay, can you hear me okay, Tim?
Yeah, and I just changed it so you guys can unmute yourselves now too.
Okay, great. Shreesh, well, let me see if I get this straight. Are you modeling a photon with this? Because a photon has momentum.
No.
But no mass.
No. It's nothing to do with photonic. It's a superstring propulsion technology, really speaking. So basically, we use photonics to create a state of non-equilibrium. That's an internal thing, but it's not a photonic rocket. That's definitely, it's a superstring rocket if you want to look at it, really speaking. So just to simplify it again, so basically we use the superstring entropic force to create Newton's third law. Then we switch it off to get Pinero's velocity space entropy gradient, which produces momentum against conservation of momentum. But it's not a photonic rocket. It's a superstring rocket, so to say. That makes sense?
Well, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it.
So think about it, right? There's an entropic force. Forget the superstring, right? Okay, there's an entropic force from the vacuum, really speaking. Given certain conditions, there's an entropic force from the vacuum. So that's what we use it, really speaking. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like something along the lines of switched reluctance type systems.
Oh, okay.
Where you switch the reluctance, in magnetics.
Yeah, I think I would say the Mach effect thruster, right? I mean, that one I think does something like that, really speaking, where they have a reluctance, they have an inductance and a capacitance which they switch on and off, really speaking, to get like these transient mass changes, really speaking, which is inside a system. So I think that fits that better, really speaking. From whatever I've read. I mean, I don't know much more about that, but basically that's what they're doing. So that may be more of a switch reluctance kind of method that you mentioned. But maybe ours is also something like that. I mean, I've never thought of it that way, but basically it's a way to get this entropic force in, switch it off, so to say, and get the momentum and get translation symmetry to work to produce momentum. In simple words, that's all it is.
Okay.
But as you know, the simplest things are the most difficult. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so oops, just lost my mouse. There we go. Okay, so let me see. I've got lots of clapping. I'm just going through the chat thing. So Rob Chambers posted the Pinheiro paper. archive.org. Yeah, and he put a link in there.
Yeah,
And again, I want to see some hands up in the air, guys. Option
was
Y.
it too much? Was it too? I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Oh no, it was really intense, but intense is good. I mean, I love that, right? So
Uh-oh.
yeah, no, that's not bad at all. There we go. Jared, go for it, sir.
Hey, Shreesh, excellent presentation. Really
Thanks.
interesting.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions just
Mhm.
that I was writing down as you were going along. So you're talking about a heat flux, right? And
Mhm.
entropy difference between the ends and the middle.
Mhm.
Right off the bat, it sounded a little Maxwell's demon-y, but I think you kind of addressed that a little bit. But do you think you might be able to address that a little more?
You mean the Maxwell's demon?
Well, how it applies to your tech, because it sounds like you're trying to pause entropy, right?
Yes. So Maxwell's demon occurs in an entropic state, right? I mean, basically under a second law of thermodynamics, really speaking. But if you don't have second law of thermodynamics, then we don't have any heat flow happening within the system. That's what I mentioned by entropy generation. There's no entropy generation. We pause that. And because we can't have the second law on pause, really speaking, so that's when the rest of the quantum loop reaction occurs, so that we have space plus system increasing in entropy, really speaking. Okay. So does that answer your question?
It does. I had a follow-up as well. So you were talking about on the string side of things. Forgive me for not being very familiar, but it sounded like this was more of a D1 system. Did you calculate it for higher dimensions, for like D2 or D3, so that you can actually have curved and not just linear momentum transfer?
Curves is a bit of a problem, really speaking, right? Because the problem with curves is it starts getting into nonlinear. So here's the challenge with this, right? It's a nonlinear behaving system, but it's highly linear. Okay, so basically we can't. I mean, in fact, my original thinking was that to use a 3-axis method to build this out, really speaking, so that way we can vary any axis to get any direction propulsion, but it does not work that way. So it has to be linear only, really speaking. But again, let me rephrase that a little bit. Maybe it's possible. I've not reached that point yet. Okay, if you're going to do something in a curved space, I think the physics will change a lot, really speaking. So because right now it is, I look at it as a completely STR system. I mean, so basically it's completely linear, and it's so far more modeled, and it performs on that basis, really speaking. Okay.
Final question for you. So I didn't really see any kind of materials or any kind of like mock-up on what what the dimensions or the requirements for such propulsion drive
Actually, I
would.
forgot. I have a first stage. I mean, this is not the current one, but I have a video that I can show. I just totally forgot. As I was talking, I forgot to do that. So Tim, can I just show that video?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just hit the screen share button. And hopefully it's not copyright. We run into issues with that.
No, it's not. I mean, the new one that I have, it's kind of proprietary, so I'm not showing that one. I still have to determine what I can show and not. But this one, okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. Okay, what happened to this? Why is it not going? Yeah. So basically, this was almost like the first version, really speaking. Okay. Don't bother with that heat flux frequency 1 kHz. That was not right, but So this is the one that I kind of mentioned. I tried it with 3 axes to see if I can get the entropy gradient in this way. No? Yeah. So basically what this is showing is, as we produce this one is basically in terms of the, what's the rubber entropy. I mean, basically I'm I'm relying here on the external ambient lighting, really speaking, to produce this. So basically I show in this that, all of these needs to be enabled, really speaking. So I don't know why it's jumping to and fro. Okay. Okay. Let me stop sharing. I don't know. Stop.
Okay, yeah, and I can, I was gonna say I can stop that for you as well. So again, guys,
So-
and, oops, I just lost my window. Option Y on Mac or Alt Y on Windows if you have any questions.
Yeah. So I just wanted to finish off with Jared. I mean, just Jared. So do you get an idea of the dimensions? I mean, the current one would be a bit more. There's a little bit more moving parts, really speaking, because there's some challenges with the, as I mentioned, with in terms of the velocity, space, entropy gradient, to get them to be scalable. So there's a little bit more, but that size that you see should be around about what it is.
Sorry, more questions. So what would be the thrust to mass ratios that you think you could get? And what was the deal with the spring thing on top that you were wiggling?
Yeah, so this is the first version, right? I mean, so basically that spring that I was pressing on top, I showed it now as inside, really speaking, in the, right? So this is what I mentioned. This is the first version. So I was trying to look at, so basically what I was trying to do is, since it's orthogonal, really speaking, we can move the spring. It's actually speaking, even at that version, it should have been inside the box that you saw. But for a video diagram, it would be very difficult to see it if I did anything inside the box, right? I mean, so that's why I kind of showed it up top. But it's just for video demo, really speaking. Okay. So thrust to mass. So here's the thing. I will answer that very. It's kind of a difficult thing because of the inverse Newtonian thing. It is not a thrust-driven system. It's a momentum-driven system. So I can't call it as, okay, it produces 1 million newtons, because it doesn't. It cannot. Okay, but it's a momentum-driven system, which will effectively produce what, say, a 1 million Newton system would potentially produce if the conditions are right. So this is what I mentioned. We've got to look at it the other way, right? From a momentum perspective. Okay, so to answer your question, really speaking, you can take 1 Newton theoretically. Okay, I'm just telling you right now, right? If you'd say 1 Newton, I showed a small calculation there. It runs based on a frequency. 1 Newton run at, say, 1 megahertz would theoretically, mind you, I only got up to 20 hertz, really speaking, but theoretically that should get 1 megahertz. How is that going to scale? Because the entire system is scaled on the kinetic energy to the Doppler shift, right? So that keeps on pulling, it's doing a full pull at either end. So that is scaled to the Doppler shift. So theoretically, it should work. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So guys, and again, we're running ahead. We're actually at the top of the hour. If that's it for questions, I'd ask Jim if he might want to present early, and he certainly doesn't have to. If we have more questions, we can go up to the full 2 hours. We're running way ahead, but
Okay.
okay, well, Shreesh, why don't we do that then? So, you know what I'm going to do. We didn't have a lot of questions.
That's
So
good.
yeah, no, that is again, thank you so much. Let me put this thing back on gallery view. Everybody, please give Shreesh Holla a giant hand. Sir, thank you so much for presenting for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, sometimes they run fast, and that is completely awesome. We'd love to have you back if you have more that you'd like to share as well. I mean,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'm making some, as I mentioned, there's some alignment issues. So I think once I've got them, where I've got a more reliable, demo, really speaking, I definitely will let you know. And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, Shreesh, thank you again so much. So let me do this then. So we do have Jim with us, and he's ready to go early. So what I will do is, and again, please forgive me for being a little kludgy. The timing part gets me sometimes. Jim Buckeyne is our next guest. Oops. And you know what? Here, let me spotlight myself here. There we go.